Good evening. I am Diana Casper from the League of Women Voters of Eastern Carver County, and I want to welcome you to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum for candidates running for the Minnesota Legislature in Districts 49B, 50A, and 50B. The League of Women Voters is a trusted organization that has been active in Minnesota for 92 years. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate or a party, we are directly involved in shaping the important issues to keep our community strong. As a League of Women Voters, I have had the opportunity to contribute in ways that have impact on local, state, and national issues. If you're interested in learning about how you can make a similar impact, I would encourage you to pick up some of the League's information available here tonight, or visit our website at www.lwvmn.org. Membership is open to both men and women. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters, and the sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement by the League of Women Voters of any candidate. A timer will hold up signs to indicate when, candidates, you have 30 seconds remaining and when you must stop. We're going to use an alphabetical order to determine the first order of speaking, and it will alternate thereafter. Each of you will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. Written questions from the audience on general issues will be given to me as moderator, and we're going to try to include as many questions from the audience as possible. Each of you as candidates will then be given 2 minutes to answer in turn by district, and then each of you will have 2 minutes at the end for a closing statement. It is our purpose in sponsoring meetings such as this to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss important issues face to face. There never is enough time to cover all of the issues in a limited time and setting such as this. If your questions are not addressed, please feel free to contact the candidates directly after the forum. We will begin now with opening statements with the state representative candidates for 49B. Terry Jacobson.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Terry Jacobson, and I thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this wonderful event, and for all of you that have come out to watch and take some time out of your evening. It's important for us all to get together and discuss these ideas, so thank you for having this opportunity. As you mentioned, I am running for state representative in 49B. I am the endorsed Republican candidate, and its new redistricted area now includes Edina, Bloomington, Minnetonka, and Eden Prairie, so we are new and expanded, and pretty excited about that. I've had the opportunity to go around the district and talk with many different people and get to know them, and I'll introduce myself to you as well. I grew up in Minnesota. I live in Bloomington. I've lived in Bloomington for the past 20 years, raised my children here. Both my children graduated from Jefferson, as well as my husband. That's why we ended up in Bloomington. My background is in finance. I'm a financial advisor, and years ago I used to be a high school math teacher. And my husband and I, we own a small business together. We invest assets for individuals and help people balance their budgets and spend wisely. And those are skills that I'd like to take to the Capitol. I think that we need more people in government, in our government, who have some skills with balancing budgets and helping people live within their means. I believe that what we need to focus in on for Minnesota is growing our economy, and then also spending within our means and making sure that we have a strong educational system. As a former teacher, that's very important to me. I'm tired of seeing us try to grow our economy through a credit card or large bonding bills, and I'd like to be a voice at the Capitol for fiscal conservatism.
Thank you very much. Paul Rosenthal.
First of all, my name is Paul Rosenthal. I'm running for the State House 49B, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters as well. It is a new district. Not only is he Edina, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, and Minnetonka, and I've been out to all corners of the district, and what I'm hearing at the door is that people are very, very frustrated. They want government to work and work for them, and that's not been the case in our state in the last couple of years. Gridlock at the state capitol has been, terrible in my mind. People are sticking to their partisan lines, and that is no way to get any work done for the state. We need to reach across the line and work with others. This state has lots of great things. It's always been a leader in education, and it's always had a great employment base because of that education. And so for me, it's pretty simple. We need to work together, and we need to do it now. And this last session, nothing got done. They didn't balance the budget. They took $2.4 billion from the schools. They used $1 billion of one-time money as a temporary fix for the budget. So while we hear in certain circles that we have a balanced budget, in July of 2013, we'll have another $4 billion, $4 billion deficit. So really all we did was kick the can down the road again, shut the government down, which put lots of people out of work, and disrupted the lives of many Minnesotans. And we need to focus on getting this state back to be the one that's forward-looking, provides great jobs because we have an educated workforce, and we've started to slip, and I'd like to go back there and get us back on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have 3 candidates for House District 50A, and we'll hear first from Joseph Cook.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Joseph Cook. I'll start with a short bio. I graduated from UW-Madison and student taught in Milwaukee in Australia, and I had actually planned on teaching in Australia, but my car broke down here in the Twin Cities twice, so that's why I'm here. I've taught for 11 years since then. I currently teach AP Government and World History. I'd like to thank some of my students for coming out as well. I appreciate that. I also worked in the corporate world as a computer programmer and as a project manager, and in PR at a labor union here in Bloomington. I've traveled to 135 countries and thus have a global view on local issues. I own a small web business, Pathleader, which is a travel business. My goal is to promote responsibility, give individuals more choice, and make government more resilient. The experiences I have shaped, the experience I've had have shaped my political beliefs. Growing up on a farm with my parents and 7 sisters, I learned the value of hard work, economic discipline, and self-sufficiency. Teaching at both public and private schools, I noticed how overburdened our public schools are by government programs and mandates. I'm impressed with how well our public schools are doing in this environment, and think if they were allowed more local control, they would do even better. Working in both big and small businesses, I saw the advantages small businesses have in being receptive to their clients. I saw those same advantages when I worked at the small labor union I mentioned before, AMFA, which is was the mechanics union for Northwest, as opposed to the AFL-CIO or Education Minnesota. This is responsiveness is why I'm part of a small political party, and I believe in small government. While traveling, I noticed how other countries solve their problems, and I would like to bring some of those reforms here. In Australia, students go through grade 10, and they could choose to work, thus saving government money, enrolling in voc ed classes, providing a useful trade, or they could take college prep courses. In Senegal, prisoners get 2 free daily meals, but the third is provided by their families, thus saving government money, but also providing a connection for prisoners and hope for their life after prison. While traveling in Iraq and Zimbabwe, I noticed how people were able to weather a non-existent or corrupt government. People are extremely resilient. Thus, government should let people succeed and only provide the services they are legally designed to perform. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Marston.
Thank you. Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for tonight. And for the students out there, Joseph told me you guys all get A's tomorrow for class, so it's a bye.
Don't drop my name.
Just kidding. My name is Craig Marston. I'm running for the House representing Richfield and Bloomington. I've been in Richfield for just over 25 years. I am a residential remodeler, so I'm a self-employed carpenter. And as a lot of you probably know, carpentry's been a great business to be in the last 5 years. And on top of that, I've got to experience more regulations, not only from the state being put on my industry and the industry of construction, but from the federal government now. So I know what government can do to business. I know how government can kill business through overregulation. And so I know what it's like to project what you would like to make next year and not come anywhere close to that. I was born and raised just outside of the metro area, and ended up going to Duluth, University of Minnesota, Duluth for school, and ended up coming back to Richfield then, and raised both my daughters in Richfield, and they went through the Richfield Public Schools. I'm also currently sitting on the Fiscal Planning Committee for the Richfield School District, so I know the struggles the school districts are going through. I know what it's like to have to sit down and negotiate and work together with people to put coalitions together to get things done. I understand what it takes, I understand what the common goal is. We need less government in our lives. We need to allow the people and allow the businesses to grow in Minnesota. We have too many businesses leaving this state. We need to focus on those things that are important and those things that are constitutionally required of the state to do, and that is education and infrastructure. So we need to, and that's what my focus is going to be at the House. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Linda Slocum.
Hello, I'm Representative Linda Slocum, and thank you to the League. This is wonderful to be able to do this, and educated voters are the best kind of voters there are. The more voters know, the better they're able to vote as they should. I'm a school teacher. I teach 8th graders American history. I've been doing that for about 25 years, give or take a year. Sometimes when you're teaching 8th grade, time melds together. I've found that teaching 8th graders has been excellent training for the legislature. I've served in the Minnesota legislature for 6 years, since 2006. I serve on the K-12 Education Committee, on the Commerce Committee, and on the Public Safety, Crime and Public Safety Committee. I've served on transportation. I've served on higher ed. So I think I have a fairly broad knowledge about what the needs are in those areas. Half the state budget is funding K-12 education, and more than half if you add higher education in too. So I think it's fairly important to have a frontline person. I'm in the classroom. I know what the needs are. I know about the changing demographics. I know about the achievement gap. The reason I'm running again for re-election is because I'd like us to find a way to fairly, sustainably, reliably fund our public schools. We borrowed money and used gimmicks to balance the books. I did not vote for the borrowing that was done. I think that we borrowed, the gimmick, the shift, the school shift, I did not vote for that. It was too large, and it's the largest shift in the United States. So we took from schools 40% of their income. That's not fair. If you went and paid your credit card and you only paid 40% of what they were asking for, how long do you think you'd keep that credit card? If we want to offer a world-class education to our kids, then we need to find a sustainable, reliable way to fund our schools.
Thank you. And now the candidates for 50B. First, Richard Bohnen.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight. This is a wonderful turnout. I want to also thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I'm Richard Bohnen. I'm running for the House seat, District 50B. I'm a lifelong resident of Bloomington. I've lived here 35 years, born and raised, a graduate of Kennedy High School. I'm a small business owner. I own and operate a convenience store and an auto repair facility in South Minneapolis. I'm married to a 4th grade teacher and have a 19-month-old daughter named Charlotte, who neither of them could be here tonight because it's getting close to Charlotte's bedtime. I'm running because it's clear that Minnesota has a problem keeping businesses from leaving the state. Nationally, we are ranked 25 for business climate. And why is that? Well, there's a few reasons why. Well, number one, we fail to issue permits in a timely manner. 2, we have a high tax burden that's placed on businesses, which makes it very, very difficult to make profits. Number 3, we have excessive regulations and mandates that do not promote growth. My lifetime in the gas and oil industry, I have negotiated with tough businesses like ExxonMobil, British Petroleum, many different financial institutions, insurance companies, and a whole handful of other entities involved in running successful businesses. I have lobbied Washington, D.C. and worked with Senators Franken and Klobuchar to initiate and pass reform of credit card swipe fees. On the behalf of thousands of retailers from across the country and Minnesota, this has helped private enterprise grow their profits and enabled them to hire more people. By electing me to the House, you will be sending a business owner to St. Paul, one that has the mindset of expanding the tax base with job growth and business success, and not by raising the tax rate or passing new taxes on any essentials. I believe in straight talk. We need more business-minded, common sense in St. Paul, and I'm your man. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Ann Lincheski.
Well, thank you, and like everyone else, thank you to the League of Women Voters for doing this, and for the audience who came out, and for folks who will watch at home. My name is Ann Lincheski, and I currently in the state legislature represent roughly the southern half of Bloomington. There's some exceptions, but just roughly the southern half of Bloomington, so that's the area I'm running for re-election in. I am a product of Bloomington. I view myself as somebody who's sort of Bloomington through and through. I grew up here and went to the schools here, as did my husband and my 4 children. So, you know, I feel like I'm sort of the typical Bloomington resident. And Bloomington's culture expects results, and it expects people to work together. I view this as a strength I have at the Capitol. There are not many left in the 2 parties that really take the word negotiate and negotiate and compromise seriously. I'm one of them. We have a culture now, unfortunately, that is all about principles and never compromising. And so a lot is not getting done. So one of the reasons I'm running is I believe that we need more people who know how to do this, who can work with the party opposite and do it well and listen and come up with a product that Minnesotans can be proud of. I really learned this method from mentors I had in Bloomington in both parties when I served on the Planning Commission, the City Council, the Parks Commission, the Bloomington Chamber Board, indeed the League of Women Voters Board. So we have a strong history in this community of demanding that our elected officials take this seriously, and I think I excel at it. I'm respectful and I do my work. I work extremely hard. I am moved by data. I'm also moved by emotion. And I think I'm a very accessible legislator who listens. And I hope that anybody who's watching will call me and talk to me about any issue. I've enjoyed talking with Bloomington residents at their door all summer and fall. And thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. And now we'll begin with the questions. And the first question will be directed to the House District 49B candidates. So Paul Rosenthal will ask you to respond first. And the question is, what can you do in the state legislature to help the economy?
There's many things we can do. When I was there in 2009, 2010, I was a founding member of the Small Business Caucus. We focused on how to make small businesses grow and prosper. We came up with 11 bills, 9 of which were passed. They ranged from streamlining the regulation and permitting process, which you talked about, to many things. I carried 2 of those bills. One was the angel investment tax credit, which passed the House and was signed into law by the governor. The other was the research and development tax credit, which is something this state has always really been strong in. The University of Minnesota spits out lots of little corporations that need just a little bit of help to get off the ground, and they're in nanotech and biotech and tech that are way over my head. But they need the resources, and I think we need to give them to them. And we've worked very hard to make Minnesota one of the best places to do business. It's currently ranked number 11 in the country, according to Ernst & Young. It's ranked number 10 in the country in Forbes magazine. And do we have work to do? Yes. But are we a good place to be and do business? Yes, and we can do more.
Thank you. Terry Jacobson.
Thanks. So I'd actually like to be a little more competitive, and instead of being ranked 10th or 11th, I'd like to be ranked number 1. And I think what we can do then in Minnesota is to make sure that, first of all, we get out of the way. Government needs to get out of the way, and sometimes the attitude has to be we should do no harm. But secondly, then I think we need to take care of our overregulation. I've talked with business owners who have a difficult time actually focusing in on their business. Their sales and use auditors come in and take up 18 or 19 man days just to go through all of the regulations and all this paperwork that they have. And so that takes them away from actually working towards their business and building profits and being able to hire employees. So I think we have some areas to improve. And additionally, then we have a high corporate tax rate. It's 9.8%. We have neighbors that are at 0. I think we'd like to be a little more competitive in that area. It's definitely a deterrent especially for entrepreneurs and startups, because when they're looking at beginning a business in Minnesota, they're thinking about all of the costs that they will have to shoulder, and that's a rather large one. And so in order to compete with the states around us, we need to fix some of those items. Additionally, we are losing businesses then to other states where people are finding that it's easier to do business. Just recently I spoke with a gentleman who moved his engineering firm to Florida. It was easier for him to work in that state due to regulation and taxation. And so those types of things, I think, do not help Minnesotans here. And we can easily take care of those at the legislature and provide a better environment for businesses to grow and to come here to Minnesota.
Thank you. This next question will be directed to the House candidates in District 50A. The question is, what specific measures would you propose to repay the schools and balance the budget? And we'll start with Joseph Cook.
First off, as far as school funding, I think it does need to change. The way it works now is, part state and then part local property taxes. That creates inequalities. I know Richfield has this levy, and we were talking about they're at about 1,000, where other per pupil, where St. Louis Park is at 1,900 and Edina's at 1,800. I'd like that to change. All right, I think we need basically where it would be same for every student instead of these disparities. I think that's what we have to look at. That's why I don't like the idea of keeping on expanding these and levies and more levies. I think we fundamentally have to change the funding of schools. As far as moving that towards balancing the budget, then I think you have to look at a couple different things. When you're talking about balancing the budget, you have to look at the programs that we do have. When we did have the shutdown last year, we talked about essential and non-essential programs. That would be a good place to stop those programs. If something is non-essential, and I realize by non-essential we mean that sometimes it could be delayed, but if it's something we really truly don't need or could be combined, that's something that we could cut or possibly trim. I think we also have to look at income coming in, so I think we have to look at our taxes as well and changing our taxes to more of a consumption tax that would help bring in revenue on that side too. So we have to really, I think what we have to do is fundamentally change the way we look at government. Okay, I think we have extremely high expectations of what government should provide to us. I think we have to understand that all these programs, and if I have a chance to enter education, that's something I mentioned as well, the need to kind of get off of schools back. We talked about getting off school businesses back as well. I think we have to have a different look as far as what our government should be doing, and it should be more limited. By doing that, we can balance the budget.
Okay, thank you. Linda Slocum.
Thank you. To repay the schools, I think is a pretty critical thing to do. There was a proposal during the last session that we take our reserve funds at the state. I voted against that. I don't think you run down your savings account to pay something off that you've gimmicked and kind of cobbled together. So I voted against that. I think it has to come from our budget, our regular budget. And I think to do that, we need to do some strategic streamlining, although I think we are pretty lean at the state level. Our departments have already been cut. Our services to citizens have been cut. And I think the other thing we need to do is balance that out by raising revenue. Middle-class taxpayers pay a larger percentage in income tax than people that make $500,000 a year. That has to be fixed. They're not paying their fair share. It's not just a slogan. It's true. The radical Department of Revenue in Minnesota has a little card they put out that shows each income level and what each income level pays. And it isn't a fair distribution at all, and I think that needs to be revamped. I will be relying on Representative Lincheski to do that, I hope, and I will certainly be supporting her proposals because I think that's a critical element. We have to make the revenue fair. It shouldn't be a burden on just the middle class. And with the property taxes, where we've relied on property taxes for the local districts to balance their books and to maintain programs even, I think that's unreasonable, and it's not a fair tax either. Property taxes fall heavily on senior citizens and on people who are less able to pay, and It's just not a fair way to do it, and I'd like us to not rely on the property taxes to balance the books. We need to streamline and fund in a sustainable way our schools and pay them back.
Thank you. Craig Marston.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with Linda on the aspect that we do need to pay the school shift back. That's a gimmick that's been going on for more than just the last session. It's been going on for over 10 years as far as I can see. The shift has been there in some sort or of another, and it needs to stop. We can't start and continue to borrow from the schools. So that would be an important thing to me. And how to fix that? I mean, overall, I'm not real happy with the tax system in the state of Minnesota. I would lean, like Joseph had brought it up, that with the consumption type tax, we need to get something that is continuing the flow of income. But the bottom line is we need a strong economy that will bring in the bottom line to keep the dollars coming into the state. But we got to stop taxing the businesses to death. I've always said that if every individual in the state had to write a check to the IRS or the state government every 3 months like most businesses do, the tax system wouldn't be this way. So it's different sitting down and writing out that check and sending that money out. So we do need to raise some of the revenues. I'm sure that in any business that I've ever seen, there's always ways to cut some lean some things out, and things may be very lean, but we're in a very lean time. We can't take it out and be raising taxes on the producers of the society to continue to fund things. But the schools do need to be funded, and there's a lot of things that can be done. And I think, and I don't have all the solutions, but I look forward to working with some people that do have some great ideas, and that's the purpose behind the legislature, is to come together with some great ideas and put some good ideas forward.
Okay, thank you. The next question for the candidates in District 50B. The question is, families in poverty and foreclosed homes are a reality in Bloomington. What is the state legislature's role in addressing poverty? And Ann Lucheski would ask you to respond first.
Well, thank you for the question. And it should alarm all Bloomington residents, the rate of poverty growth in Bloomington, not in somewhere else, in Bloomington. I don't know where that question came from, but whoever wrote it is right on. The foreclosure situation in Bloomington is actually getting better. I know all of us are door knocking, and if you were door knocking 2 years ago and 2 years before that, the foreclosure situation is getting a little better in Bloomington. And I see the mayor is here, and I know that the city of Bloomington has been doing some things. The state passed a number of laws in this regard, and so we can do more there. But to the issue of poverty, I think Representative Slocum hit it on. It's really the tax system that makes everything go round at the Capitol. Whether you like taxes or don't, it's what funds everything. All the issues that people care about at the Capitol are all funded by the tax committee. Every other committee asks the tax committee for money. So when we talk about issues of poverty, the tax code is critical. We have the working family tax credit in Minnesota, which keys off the federal tax credit. So we really pay for work in Minnesota. What we want to do is provide a tax credit for people who are working. And so this is a way that we've really helped lift people up and out of poverty. But Representative Slocum is right. Property taxes disproportionately hurt the poorest Bloomington residents, overwhelmingly. There's no doubt that it's a very regressive tax, and it is not related to people's ability to pay. So when the state legislature fails to fund things at the state level, it pushes the burden onto the local units of government, the school board, the city council, the Met Council, the watershed district, the mosquito control district, the Hennepin County, whoever it is. By failing to respond accordingly at a state level, the locals are being asked to pick up the tab. And what that means is disproportionately people are paying for their government services through the property tax. We now have a system in Minnesota where Minnesotans spend more on property taxes than they do on the income tax or the sales tax. That's never happened in Minnesota history. So it's a huge problem, and one way to address the property tax, the poverty in Bloomington, is to change the tax code.
Okay, thank you. And now back to questions for the candidates in District 49B, and the question is... Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, how you doing?
Richard Bohnen. Richard Bohnen.
Well, I have seen quite a few foreclosed houses, when I go out walking around, and, amazingly, there's even some political signs sitting outside of them. But I think the main thing that we have is the economy. We need to expand the economy so people can actually have a job and afford to pay for a house. I think that there was a time where banks and other financial institutions didn't do their due diligence in the first place, and were giving loans to people who frankly didn't qualify for them. So now we're in this situation. Banks are scared to lend. There's been excessive regulations that have come down on top of banks due to Dodd-Frank and many other ones. But the main thing is money is not easily available for people to buy homes. And so I guess what we'd have to do is, unfortunately, a lot of this is, federal mandates, that we need to make sure that banks are willing to lend and people have jobs and secure jobs to pay the banks back. And I would have to say that is the main thing, is getting the economy going so people actually have a portfolio to bring to the bank and say, hey, I'm ready to buy a house, and they actually can qualify for one.
Okay, thank you, and I'm sorry. The question for District 49B candidates, the question is, how can Minnesota help refugees and immigrants to become full, productive members of society? And Terry, if you'd answer that first, please.
Well, I think that we do have a lot of good programs already in place that we can help refugees and people that need those programs get to them. I think that those things they've always been a good, people in Minnesota have always had a high value placed on individuals and helping individuals have a leg up. And so a lot of those programs are already in place. Just getting those programs to the people and making sure that they have access to them, I think, is the important part. And I know there are wonderful groups like the League of Women Voters that take care of that, other groups, churches that take care of those things. And for Minnesota, those Minnesota values of taking care of each other, those always have come first for us. And I think we can really rely on the state to do its part and the people also to help. I think that's an area where we're really performing, and I think we need to just continue on.
Thank you. Paul Rosenthal?
Could you repeat the question, please?
How can Minnesota help refugees and immigrants to become full, productive members of society?
That's a great question. And my son goes to school where there's 21 languages spoken at home as a first language. They come from all over the world, and these are very, very hardworking people. And it's very hard to integrate into a society that is not as welcoming in some instances as it can be. What we did is we brought families and kids over into these communities and worked directly with them. And we engaged them, we invited them into our homes and into our schools, and they got the feeling that, yeah, this is a place where they want to live, and if the help is out there, we pointed them towards it. These people are just like my grandparents. They came here for a better life. And we need to make sure that, as Terry said, our values give them the leg up that they deserve.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, and I appreciate the audience putting the district that you want the question directed to. This question for the candidates in 50A, where do you stand on integration aid for education? And we'll start with Craig Marston.
The integration aid, I'll have to be honest with you on that one. I don't know a lot about the integration aid for Richfield for the schools. I don't know about the financing it, so I guess I'd be better not to comment on it at this time.
Okay. Joseph Cook.
All right. When we talk about integration aid, we're talking about also the pots that we have. If you had a chance to go to the Richfield League of Women Voters debate, after we debated, the superintendent talked to us, or you could stay in the superintendent talked to some of the citizens there. And he talked about, he was originally from Wisconsin, then had moved here, and talked about all the different pots. Okay, in Wisconsin, it's basically you had education, like a general fund for education, then special ed, 2 pots. What you have here is many, many pots, integration being one of them. And you have school lunch and all the different pots, and you kind of he's trying to be unbiased, but I think he saw that as an issue where he would prefer then it would be in one pot. It would be easier. The integration, I believe, comes back from the 1971 case, Swan versus Charlotte, that dealt with in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you basically had schools and they were supposed to desegregate, but because of the fact then that in white, there's white neighborhoods and you had white schools basically, and in black neighborhoods you had black schools. This was basically forcing the integration. And then we had a court case a few years back here in the Twin Cities that did the same thing for the western suburbs. The way I look at this kind of ties back into the whole thing that I was talking about with education and the programs forced upon them and the mandates forced upon them. This is something, again, that I think has to come back to local control and letting schools determine how their schools are going to be. So as far as the integration and the funding, I would like to see the pots be similar to how it is in Wisconsin. I think that would allow schools to be able to perform the funding the right way, and I would like, again, like I said before, more local control.
Okay, Linda Slocum.
Thank you. Currently, there is an integration aid task force that is working on the integration aid money. Because there have been in some districts, I'm going to call out Stillwater, okay? They ran a summer camp with their integration money, and that's not what it's for. It's for use in the schools to promote integration. So there have been districts that have locally controlled and misused the funds. The task force's task is to streamline the regulations, but also to make it very clear and transparent how this money is to be used. And Bloomington is a great recipient of integration aid. In fact, the area that I represent, East Bloomington and Central Bloomington, the schools, Kennedy gets a significant number, Valley View gets a significant amount of integration aid dollars. And it helps them to bring the immigrant population in to the schools and educate. It helps it helps all the people in the schools, regardless of their race, become more sensitive and culturally able as they deal with the diversity in their neighborhoods and in their schools. The Integration Aid Task Force is going to come back with recommendations for this funding, and I know most school districts are quite nervous about this. I was asked to be on the task force, but unfortunately, I'm in a classroom teaching school when they meet, so I couldn't do it. But I've been very interested in this, so I've stayed informed. They're coming back, I believe, in either the end of November, beginning of December with their recommendations. My understanding at this point is that the changes will not be dramatic and will not be immediate, but the transparency using the funding will go forward, and slowly the regulations will come into play. They don't want to cut a school district funding using in this avenue because it would hurt the school district. They want it more clearly done. So that's what they're coming out with later on next month.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
I mention to my students that Swan versus Charlotte case is actually on a test, so hopefully you were paying attention or not just talking like you normally do in class.
Okay, and then the next question. What do you think are the primary needs of seniors living in Minnesota? Richard Bohnen?
Well, I think that healthcare is probably tops the list. I would think that seniors want to make sure that they have adequate care to our health system. And I would have to say that another one would be Social Security. I would think that most seniors would want to make sure that their Social Security is funded and is going to be there for the remainder of their life. That's about all. I haven't really thought a whole lot about the whole question, but I would like to investigate that more and be a little bit more versed in it.
Okay, thank you. Ann Lucheski.
Yes. The state of Minnesota, of course, is a major provider for senior services. People think of Social Security and Medicare, but that's really not what the state's involved in. That's the federal government. What the state's involved in is implementing much of the health care for those who need assistance in health care. The transportation system that assists many seniors who need assistance in getting where they need to go. And then, of course, the property tax system that really is, in this state, and other states don't do it this way, we ask our local units of government to provide local services. And so we set up a property tax system that makes that happen, and much of that goes really through the counties. People think of the property tax system as their city and their school, but most senior services are provided by counties. And so it's really the legislature who's dictating a lot of what the counties are doing, and they're really the people who are providing for senior services. And then, of course, we have a lot of programs to try to assist people with home maintenance and people who are isolated. We have the circuit breaker system to help people pay their property taxes. Unfortunately, last legislative session, the homestead credit was permanently eliminated, which many of our seniors received, and that's now gone. But there's a lot going on for seniors, and all of us either are one or are going to be one. And we know when we work with our seniors that we have a lot of people here in Bloomington who live alone in their homes. And it's something that you can see the city grapple with as it provides more senior housing and more support. We do have the B line here, and the Met Council is taking a lot of actions to think through how people get served. But we have a lot of people who just need to get to their doctor's appointment and no longer drive. We have a lot of isolation issues. And so there's a very multifaceted approach that has to help most seniors. I mean, there are those, and thanks to those who bought a long-term care package early, you're doing all the taxpayers a big favor, but the majority of seniors have not done that. And the majority of baby boomers have not done that. And that's going to be a huge cost driver for the state budget.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll have our closing statements from our candidates. And we'll begin the closing statement with candidates for District 49B, Paul Rosenthal.
Well, first of all, thank you to the league and fellow candidates. It's been a pleasure. Minnesota has always had the reputation of being one of the best places to live and do business and to raise a family. And frankly, that's why I'm here. Our education system has been the driving force for our economy. It is clear that the more we invest in our education, the higher our salaries rise as a whole. And we've begun to slip a little bit, and that concerns me. We're ranked number 47th in class size right now. That is not tolerable for this kind of community. We were talking about property taxes before. Property taxes in greater Minnesota have doubled over the last 10 years, and we have elderly people, mostly on pensions and fixed income, they're losing their homes. So we have to have a conversation about what kind of Minnesota we want to have. And my vision for Minnesota is, to have us all doing as well as possible. If outstate Minnesota is not doing well, Bloomington ultimately isn't doing well. So we have to have a holistic view of the state. And we haven't had an honest, balanced budget in 10 years. And I want to go back and work on that so we can have stable funding for our schools, stable funding for our communities, and so businesses can plan into the future. We've been on a yo-yo for the last 10 years. And so families can't plan, businesses can't plan, school districts can't plan, and that's no way to run a state. So I would ask you to send me back to the legislature, and I will work on a fair, balanced budget that is in balance, and we don't go into deficit year after year after year. We deserve that. My kids deserve that. Your kids deserve that.
Thank you. Terry Jacobson.
I've always been fond of saying that we need bigger citizens and smaller government. And so I think we are faced with that right now, especially in light of the fact that we are having difficulties balancing the budget. Our revenue has always been strong in Minnesota. We've always had money increasing year after year. We had some bobbles there when we had the Great Recession, but I think that overall our state has done a pretty good job. We've had some troubles lately, and I'm optimistic that we can change that by focusing just a little bit on the private sector and acknowledging that jobs must come from that area. And we grow up and we live in Minnesota, and when we were kids, we didn't think about what is the government going to give us as soon as we're 18. What we thought about is where we're going to go to college, what are we going to do for a living, and having a family and raising that family and earning a living. And getting back to those values, I think, is an important concept here. And what we've come to is a tipping point where we need to make sure that we're providing our citizens with a solid education, not just some, but all of them. We're making sure that we have the best teachers in the classroom. We're providing the environment for private sector industry to grow and thrive in Minnesota, meaning that we have less regulation, less taxation, and less government. And then the rest will take care of itself. The people of Minnesota are hardworking people, and they can do it if we just get out of the way. That's what I'd like to go to St. Paul and do, is get out of the way and let the people of Minnesota show their spirit and show what they can do and make this state #1 in not just one area, but many, many areas. Thanks.
Thank you. And now, the candidates for District 50A, and we'll start with Craig Marston.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for tonight, the opportunity tonight. We need to go, if you send me to St. Paul, I'm going to go with some priorities. #1, obviously, is the economy. The economy matters. We need to stop making it so difficult to do business here. We have a lot of Fortune 500 companies that have grown in Minnesota, started in Minnesota, but they're not expanding in Minnesota. And the reason they're not expanding is that they have a difficult time doing it. But that is the base to give everyone, because we do have a great educational system, and that is another priority to me. We need to bring that local control away from St. Paul back to the communities so the communities can decide what is best for their community. Just because St. Paul sees a problem in Bloomington doesn't mean that, all we have to do is go across 494. Richfield's got some different problems. Same thing going across the river, Burnsville's got different problems. Those communities should be deciding what's best for those schools and along with the citizens of those cities, Bloomington and Richfield, making the decisions to what's happening with the school, not being made from St. Paul. We need to get government out of the way, and that's going to continue to grow the space. And we are hardworking here. When there's nothing in our way, we can find our own way through. So the third thing that I would want to look at is the taxing system as far as how we do collect taxes here. We have a very regressive system here that suppresses a lot of people. So we punish for a lot of different things. So as a business owner, I know what it is like to do business here. So I encourage you to vote for me, and thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Linda Slocum.
Thank you, and thank you to the League. This was great tonight. Very, very well done. There's been a lot of talk tonight about businesses. Businesses don't exist without consumers. And when you squeeze and hurt the middle class by taking their market value tax credit for their property taxes, when you have income tax unfairness, you're squeezing the consumers, and then they don't spend their money, and then the businesses don't exist. It's about the simplest economic concept there is, supply and demand. If you don't have the demand, you don't have the business. So when we talk about the business generators, I believe they're the consumers. We decide as we purchase things what businesses we're going to do business with. We actually vote every day with our dollars. The other priority I have is the schools. We need to develop a fair, reliable, so that schools aren't having to shuffle every year and change everything every year, reinvent the wheel, so to speak, to balance their books and to fund their programs. They need to have reliable funding year to year, and it needs to be fair and equitable from community to community, and it should not rely on property taxes, which again is an unfair tax. I'd also like to look at the fairness in the income tax structure, and the reason that the fairness, which is a documented fact by the Department of Revenue in Minnesota, that incredibly radical group, they think that they're not very fair. And we need to look at the tax structure. I think it's critical that we do that. When I run a bill, I meet with whoever happens to be the committee chair to see if I can get my bill heard. I met with Republicans. I meet with Democrats. My office, actually, in the state office building, is right next door to the Republicans. I chose that office because I work with both sides of the aisle. I don't like gridlock.
Thank you. Joseph Cook.
I appreciate the League of Women Voters for putting this on and for being truly unbiased. I appreciate being able to debate with this group of candidates on several occasions. In the debates, I talk about the advantage I have due to the autonomy the Independence Party gives me. I talk about the evils of the two-party system. That, however, doesn't make my fellow candidates evil, just slightly misguided. They all are actually very nice people and very good people, and I'd like to recognize the time they put into this campaign and the time that you put in coming here and whoever is watching your time as well. It's an important part of our democracy. The cornerstone of our democracy is voting. I want you all to think about the importance of your vote. League of Women Voters knows the struggle for women's right to vote, something underrepresented in our world history textbooks. Several people died to get this right. Much like your car or your clothes or where you live, it is unique to you. Your vote says a lot about you, your integrity, and your values. I'm one of the few government teachers that tell students not to vote. You shouldn't vote for someone if they don't match your values and your ideology. You shouldn't vote for the lesser of two evils. Why? Because you're voting for evil. When you vote, you are not voting against someone. You, in the end, are voting for someone. If you don't vote for someone you agree with simply because you think they can't win, that also says something about you and your values. Obviously, I think I'm the best candidate. I have unique experiences, a centrist ideology, and an unwavering independent streak. I've had people say to me while campaigning that I'm a strong candidate and that I should join one of the major parties because I could win. I can almost feel the serpent crawling up my leg and offering me the apple. I'm not going to take a bite of the apple because it's not who I am. November 6th, don't take a bite out of the apple. Please vote for the person who matches your ideology and your values. It would be really nice if that was me. If it's Craig or Linda, that's fine too, but do it for the right reasons. If it's not any of us three, please don't vote. You're making things worse.
Thank you. And now from District 50B candidates, we'll hear first from Ann Lucheski.
Well, thank you, and thanks to everyone for listening and being here and to the league. I would ask directly for your support on November 6th. I work very hard for the people of Bloomington, and I hope people understand that. Bloomington residents have always been my first priority and always will be. And after that, state residents. I will tell you at the Capitol, citizens are outgunned. The lobbyists are everywhere, and they're working very hard to make sure they get preferences. And they're succeeding a lot of the time. I stand very firm against that. I don't view it as my job to provide preferences to different businesses at the expense of someone else, to figure out how to help someone avoid paying taxes that everyone else has to pay. And you will know that if you reelect me, I will always put citizens' interests first. We have serious, serious problems at the Capitol. I am concerned when I hear people say that it's simple or we'll just use common sense. It is not simple. The problems that are left at the Capitol are the hard ones. The easy ones are solved very quickly. We have a court system that's not funded with high rates of incarceration. They're complicated issues. We have an achievement gap that we must tackle. Our business community needs every future child to be ready to work. We have a transportation system that needs a lot of work. We need to improve our education system and get more kids to get to the highest possible level of education they can as quickly as they can, whether it's a 4-year college degree, a 2-year, a VOTEC, whatever it is. And we need to assist their parents in helping them get there. We are falling behind on many of these measures, many of them. And we are stuck because so many people are off on tangents that really is not government's role. We are not to be running the private sector. We're supposed to figure out how to make government efficient for everyone at the least possible price. You can count on me to be able to say no. I say no a lot to a lot of great ideas. That is just not government's role. We don't have the money.
Time.
And I hope you'll consider supporting me.
Thank you. Richard Bohnen.
All right. Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. You know, I believe we live in a time where our economy is the #1 priority. We face many shortfalls over the next few years. In the field of transportation, as Representative Lincheski said, we're facing $1 billion shortfall in the next biennium. Bloomington schools are short $1 million. It seems every entity of government is short money somewhere. I believe one of the ways to fix these problems is to make Minnesota more competitive. A state that raises taxes cannot compete. I do not support job-killing taxes increases that hinder economy recovery and job creation. I will focus on eliminating red tape, reducing regulation, limiting government overreach, and reining in unsustainable spending to create a level playing field. I also support investments in private sector innovation to help businesses grow and create jobs. This is why I am for the Mall of America expansion. Our economy is sluggish, and adding roughly 10,000 jobs is a good thing. The mall has been proven to be a great investment for the city of Bloomington, but what I don't understand is why my opponent discounts what the Mall of America brings to Bloomington. Jobs, tourism, and most of all, increased revenue to the state coffers via income tax, sales tax, property tax, hospitality tax, and it goes on. Her reasoning is that big developers are not in need of these tax breaks, and we should not subsidize millionaires. But the biggest consequence of not doing the TIF is that we will not get the expansion. This is an investment opportunity for Bloomington. The first TIF is set to expire and will bring in roughly $7.5 million to Bloomington's general fund. Instead, my opponent wants to spend $12 million on the old Cedar Bridge. I don't think this is a top priority at this time. I'm sure the bridges that cars drive on are in more desperate need of repairs. What Minnesota needs is companies with more jobs that generate more revenue to the state so we can hire more teachers, keep class sizes down, fix our roads and bridges, meanwhile being able to maintain the comfortable lifestyle that Minnesotans have been accustomed for. I believe in government that lives within its means, works for the people, and protects people's liberties. I want to just remind everybody that the government shut down last year, and I guess my question is to you, why would we send them back?
Okay, thank you. Let's please thank the candidates for being a part of the democratic process and running for office.